It was June in 1774 that Captain Cook sailed around this point and got into a longboat and came ashore here at this very spot. There was a plan today, but the plan has gone awfully wrong. I'm getting some laundry done, that's about it. The island of Nui is just shrouded in mist and rain and horribleness today. I've been here with these guys, Johanna and Timo. The plan was that we were going to leave together, but I wanted to do some filming. I thought I'll have an extra day here to film, and they're leaving and I'm supposed to be filming, but they're leaving and I'm not filming because the weather's terrible. I managed to get a bit of filming in yesterday, but planned a bigger day today. What I didn't count on was the weather. Been a few hours now since the others left. I've kind of kissed this day goodbye really, not going to get anything done. I had planned quite an extensive day ashore filming. Got some laundry done and I've been down below doing some editing. A little bit of excitement. The supply ship's coming. As you probably know by now, all these islands have to be supplied by ship. And this one looks quite big. I know the authorities removed some of the yacht moorings from in front of the jetty there, the quayside where the ship is due to go. I hope there's enough room between me and that. Right now there's a terrifying vista of a ship bearing down on me. He was actually straight on me just a few seconds ago, and he's not far off that now. I think even he's a bit too big for Buster to deal with. That's not going to stop any rubbish. I tell you what, that's a scary sight. I've just turned my AIS on so he knows that I'm here, and of course immediately the alarm goes off, but at least I'm electronically visible. Turns out the ship wasn't going alongside after all. Busy unloading the containers from the middle of the bay, but I've never seen this. Cables going from the stern all the way to the shore, quite a distance. I don't know if they're going to be doing that all night or not, but they seem to have an awful lot of work. They got it well organized though. Nui is a small island in the Pacific, part of the Cook Islands chain. At one time it was run by Great Britain, but now that job is done by New Zealand. The island was first settled by Polynesian sailors from Samoa in around about the year 900. One of the first things I saw when I came ashore was a monument to soldiers from Nui that had joined up during the First World War. 150 of them were sent to Europe to fight, but most died of disease, flu and pneumonia. None of them had ever worn layers of clothing before. Some didn't even have shoes, and most didn't speak English. And in the meantime, rush hour continues in Nui. Thought I'd take myself out down the main street and see what I could find. Found this place, Nui Visitor Center, guarded by this particularly vicious dog. Hello mate, you alright? Yeah. Inside was some hairy stuff made of bits of leaves, and these look like Tongan braziers. Well, there you go. And then there was some pointy things like that looked a little bit vicious. Not as vicious as the dog though. And then this is rather nice. I think this is done on tree bark. And then there were some woody things and a nice pattern. I did, however, recognize this. This was obviously a canoe. Then I went to the market, and that was bustling. It really was. Island life is just too fast for me, I think. But yeah, it looked good. Well, probably. And then there was a chicken, and things were just so exciting. You know you're in a civilization when you walk down the road, you got Jesus and a pizza. Oh yes. One of the things that you have to be careful of here is everybody drives on the correct side of the road, the left. I'm not even going to ask. Now the weather's beginning to change. Don't like the look of that. Uh-oh. I'm on a mission. I left some money down here as surety against a meal. I didn't have any local currency. I got to go and pick that up. Met a new friend on the way.
Hello. Hello there.
And then I saw this. Graves. Graves everywhere. On every available space. Down by the road, in people's garden, on plots of land. Graves everywhere. It's something to do with the culture in this part of the world. It's not something I can readily understand. My friend's still with me. Don't piss on the grave. Yeah, he is too. He is too. Look, you dirty mongrel. Stay there, mate. You stay there. Well, that was interesting. I just said to the local, that was the most exciting thing to happen on this island for a while. I'll be talking about it for weeks. Look at this over here. There's more graves. I don't get this. I don't get this. In front of the house, you know? That doesn't instill confidence. Oh. If this was the Caribbean, they'd be playing music out of these big boys. Then it was time for a break. Stopped at this cafe for a coffee. They had a nice veranda overlooking the sea. Beautiful view. I wonder who owns this boat. Oh, it's me. And then I came across this place, a place I've been looking for while I've been on the island. It was one of the reasons I was here, another of my little historical tours that I like to do, featuring my hero, Captain Cook. This is a story that you will love. It was June 1774, just another day here on Niue, but the locals were expecting some trouble. Captain Cook sailed around this point and got into a longboat and came ashore here at this very spot on the island of Niue. The locals were expecting him because he tried to get ashore in a couple of other places further up the coast and failed, because as you can see it's very inhospitable and there are no landing places as such, but there is a little gorge here which you can get a rowing boat in. It would have been the ship's longboat, and they came ashore here at this exact spot, but they were met by the natives who were a bit angry. As Cook and his men came ashore here, they were confronted by savages, as they called them, coming down this very gorge, and they were just trying to defend their island. And it is a very defensible shoreline. A few years before, Cook, some Tongans attempted to land, and they too were quelled, and now lie buried under these bushes and rocks, where their bones are supposedly rotting away today. What was particularly frightening about these natives is they'd been eating some banana. But this banana was different, only grows on this island and is red. And what they did, they smeared it all around their mouths and came down this track with what appeared to be blood all around their mouths. Of course, Cook and his men fired a few pot shots at them and took off. And he named this place Savage Island. It was another 80 years before anybody else ventured onto this island. Such was the reputation of the savages of Savage Island, which is really what they wanted. They weren't interested in outside contact, and they were also afraid of diseases that they had no immunity to. A thing that killed off many other people in the Polynesias at the time. Out of the two possible landing places in this gorge, there's that one which is permanently rough, and this one on this side, which looks like it's almost made as a little harbour for a boat. And over there you can just see Shadi in front of that ship. This is the first bay that he could have tried to have got in. On the other side of the pinnacle that I'm standing on, you can see that that is a natural passage for a boat. That had to be in the one that Cook used, for sure. These days it's mostly visited by tourists. Although a little bit tricky, it is an ideal landing spot, and I believe that Cook came in here to this gorge. Depending on the state of the tide, there's always a bit of current, and it is a bit tricky, but with Cook's men, they would have all been experienced seamen and wouldn't have found this a problem. I can imagine him coming alongside here in the longboat, and the first piece of rock he's going to stand on will be that one there. I'm not going to step down there because it's a bit slippy, the tide's going out and it's still wet. But to my mind, this is a natural place to bring the boat in, and this is the easiest way to get out. Well, on that side it's steep, and you come up here and then face what must have been a pretty frightening sight coming down there. People screaming with red banana all over their faces. And this is the view the captain would have had. That's the gorge there, but coming down, throwing rocks, of which there are plenty lying around here, it would have been all these angry and very frightening natives. Canoeing has always been part of the Polynesian culture. That's what they explored their islands with, that's how they traveled to other islands, and they use it for food, for fishing. And in those days, as it is today, there's very little places where you can actually launch a canoe off the island, and this is one of them. So when Cook came here, there were canoes all over the place, parked up if you like. This is where the locals kept their canoes. So as in some of the other Polynesian islands, metal nails were a tradable commodity, because Polynesians had never seen anything like that. They didn't have metal, and so they valued the nails. There are stories of ships where parts started to drop off, especially when they visited Tahiti, because nails could be traded for sex. But here, that didn't happen. Cook's crew threw nails and any other bits and pieces and trinkets that they had into the canoes as an offering of peace and left. Came back again, and the natives threw the stuff back at them. So they were pelted by their own ship's nails and again had to leave. I love the fact that this island has changed very little. The authorities are very keen to keep it as rural and as traditional as possible, and that they do. There's only 1,000 people live on the island, and I think they only allow 200 to 300 tourists on the island at any one time, and it's still very difficult to get to. And as for this place, the actual landing place of Cook when he came to the island, naming it Savage Island, nothing has changed. This cove is exactly the same as it was. And the canoes that were here are still here. The culture of canoeing in Polynesia is huge, as big today as it used to be. These canoes are fiberglass, but essentially the same kind of thing. And the fact that the locals here put their canoes in these very same spots 300 years ago at Cook's time, and they still do today, for me is an amazing thing to see. It was emotional, I've got to say. I'm like, wow. It is a true and living connection with history. Another canoe.
At this point, I'm probably further up the gorge than Cook ever got. On a footnote, the locals say that if he'd have come up any further, to a point where I am now probably, they would have killed him. And history would read that Cook died on Savage Island, now known as Niue, instead of Hawaii, where he eventually was killed by the locals there. Interesting. And somewhere up here at the top of the gorge lies the bodies of the Tongans who attempted to invade the island a few years before Cook. And now for the real reason I'm actually here. I've come thousands of miles across the Pacific to this island because I've been told that just down here you can get fish and chips. We'll see. Guys open at all? No. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Are you open?
Yes.
Can I have fish and chips, please?
Have here or take away?
To have here, I think. I'll just eat it outside. Thank you. Yes.
Yummy. It's always nice when you live on the sea and you sail a boat to get ashore and find a little place where you can sit down, read a book, make a cup of coffee, make a cup of tea, talk to some friends. And that is usually what you'll find in yacht clubs the world over. And this one is particularly nice, the Niue Yacht Club.
It's a couple of miles up from the town. Got a ride with my new friend Brian and Chris, and I was told I had to film this crab. Apparently it's for real. It's the biggest crab anybody's ever caught. No way. I think that's a plastic crab. Seriously think they're having me on about that. It was just another day here on the island of Niue. The sails had been sailed. The sails. What was particularly unusual? This banana